After 2 weeks off, the Xfinity Series returns to the track this afternoon here at Texas Motor Speedway. It's race number 2 in the second round of the Chase playoffs. Championship dreams still alive for 8 drivers. A win today would give them the opportunity to drive for the title at season's end in Miami.
As you get further into this chase, the one aspect is always expect the unexpected.
Jones is around. He takes Dillon up to the wall.
Justin Allgaier in the 7 involved, as is Darrell Wallace Jr. Brendan Gaughan sliding through the grass.
It'd be hard to put in words what a championship would mean to me.
Elliott Sadler will win and advance to the round of 8.
We have to take it step by step, and then we can put all our minds together for Hamilton.
Suarez has put on a clinic today.
Hoisting that trophy over my head in Miami is definitely the end goal for this year.
A win here and you're guaranteed a spot in the championship Ford. Welcome to NASCAR Xfinity Series Racing on NBC from Texas Motor Speedway. Today's telecast presented by Shell Rotella. Let's take a look at the Chase grid. 8 drivers still with a chance at the championship. A victory this afternoon by one of these drivers would ensure them a spot in the championship 4. Floor 1 alongside Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton. I'm Rick Allen. One of the things I noticed on that Chase grid, not one driver has a win. No one is locked in to the championship 4 yet, Jeff.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been a lot of trouble in this chase so far. A lot of wrecks, a lot of engine problems, trouble on pit road. And this racetrack's very, very difficult. We see tire problems here. We see people get in the wall. So with all the problems already, I would not be surprised to see it happen here again today.
Well, and after breaking the schedule in 2 weeks off, they have 2 weeks to determine the 4 drivers that will race for a championship in Miami. And while Elliott Sadler and Daniel Suarez are feeling good at 12 points ahead, the winningest Xfinity regular driver of the year, Erik Jones, winless in the chase on the bubble. What a roller coaster chase it's been. Will it smooth out? Can he get to victory lane and guarantee a spot in that final race?
And a reminder, if you win, you advance to the championship 4. Want to take a look at today's starting grid? It'll be on the top of the screen, brought to you by Shell Rotella. And this 1.5-mile racetrack so fast here at Texas Motor Speedway. Let's look at today's race analysis. 200 laps, 300 miles. Pit road speed 45 miles per hour. And Steve, the fuel window 54 to 56 laps.
Yeah, and we just saw yesterday in the truck series, they went all the way to the caution clock. We always seem to have long runs here at Texas Motor Speedway. So I expect these teams to try to stretch the Sunoco fuel to the maximum, those 56 laps. But remember, this track is also hard on those Goodyear tires. They have to really manage those tires if they're going to stretch that fuel.
Jeff, I think one of the big storylines has to be that these drivers have not competed for 2 weeks. They've had 2 weeks off between the first race of this round of 8 and now this second race.
Rick, I agree. I think there's a rhythm to the year. You get into a momentum, you get things going the way you want them to go, or even when they're not going well, you understand what you're dealing with. And now with 2 weeks off, and perhaps the most important race of the year so far, you've been off and you're not in that rhythm. So who can get back in it? Who can have those pit stops when you need it? What crew chief can make that right call? What driver is going to be on it when the green flag drops? I think it's a significant time to have week off.
And Steve, I know that you had mentioned Erik Jones, the winningest driver in 2016, but still winless in this chase. What does Erik Jones have to do to calm down a little bit and understand that he's got the talent, he's got the equipment, he just needs to get to victory lane?
Well, it's difficult because the way this 20 team has approached every race this season, it's kind of a go-for-broke attitude. They win the most races because they're very aggressive, and that aggressive nature has really got them in trouble already this year. We've seen accidents, we've seen pit road mistakes, a little bit of bad luck with some tires, but I think they just need to settle in, know that they're a championship caliber race team, and let that show on the racetrack. Try the best to eliminate the pressure.
You say try the best. Some of the best are racing in this race against Xfinity Series drivers, including Brad Keselowski, who has the pole. He's on the outside in the 22. Erik Jones in the 20 on the inside, getting ready for the green flag to kick this race off at Texas.
See, Matt Tifft on the bottom lane got a really bad restart. Lost a lot of spots already getting to turn 1.
3 wide as they go through 1 and 2. Brad Keselowski right in the middle on the outside. That's the 19 of Daniel Suarez trying to take the spot away.
You're already seeing what makes it so difficult to try to race for a championship is the aggression on these restarts. The way this Xfinity Series works, it's all about momentum. They're wide open through the first set of corners. So if you lose momentum, as you mentioned, Jeff, the 18 car did, they were 2 and 3 wide trying to get around it.
And one of the things that they've got to think about is this is a bumpy racetrack. And now, for the first time, they're on the track with 39 other cars running side by side. It's not just a single car out in practice or a single car in qualifying. They're side by side, door to door, as they go over this rough surface.
And we talked about the aggressive start. See Matt Tiff trying to come back from that slow start he had, but in that aggressive start, Keselowski went all the way back to 4th. Eric Jones leading, his teammate Suarez in 2nd, but Keselowski all the way to 4th.
Brad Keselowski driving the 22.
I love this shot right here in that DC Solar onboard camera with Brendan Poole. Brendan, another young driver that qualified for the Xfinity Series chase, hasn't been able to move through the rounds, but had a really good year in that 48 car.
Backup car for the 11 of Blake Cook, currently running in 9th, fighting against Kyle Larson in the 42.
And Rick, I really think Kyle Larson in the 42, Brad Keselowski in the 22, those Sprint Cup regulars could define how this chase plays out. Can they get today's win? If they do, that eliminates one of those chase guys from having that automatic berth. That's why I feel points are so important in the Xfinity Series.
Points are huge. There's 2 races left. We're going to send 4 to Homestead. Can't have 4 winners, so you're going to send more people to Homestead most likely by points than you do by wins, so you have to have solid runs. You see Kevin Harvick making a move on Blake Cook.
Trying to get by the 11, Kevin Harvick. Cup Series star, former Cup champion. 5 wins in the Xfinity Series at this racetrack, 46 career wins, and he makes the pass on Blake Cook as Blake goes up the racetrack. Another Cup regular, Austin Dillon, in the 2, tucked in behind the 88. Kevin Harvick. And Brendan Gaughan, one of the chase drivers, in the 62, running a higher line. That's one of the things that Brendan Gaughan likes to do at a racetrack. He likes to run right up against the wall, and at this racetrack, he can do that. We'll see the 42 of Kyle Larson, another driver who likes to run right up against the wall. When these tires wear out a bit and they're trying to find grip, they'll go everywhere on the racetrack.
You mentioned Brad Keselowski getting not the best start and falling back to 4th. Well, he's starting to recover. He really looks good right at the bottom of the racetrack, passing the 7 of Justin Allgaier.
Parker Kligerman.
You see who he just passed there, Justin Allgaier, who came into this race on the bubble, on the cut line of the chase. And if you remember back when this chase started, the 7th car at Kentucky was running the top 10 and got involved in a wreck, but the team recovered. Then they went to Kansas. They once again were involved in a wreck, and they recovered to a 14th place finish. But coming into this race, this team feels like they've been able and helped by the misfortune of others, and it's time to set their own fortune. They were very confident with their car coming out of practice. They qualified 6th. You see them run the top 5 right now.
And I like that approach, Rick. I like a team that doesn't look around to the other teams they're racing and look for handouts. To move forward, to be a champion, at some point during the season, you have to reach out and take it. And I think that's the attitude that 7 team apparently has, and that's the attitude they need heading into Miami if they can qualify in those championship 4.
Yeah, great laps into this race, but the start of the race, watch the front row, watch the row behind him. Keselowski looks to get a good launch. The 18 car spins his tires. The 42 behind the 18 spins his tires. Now Suarez jumps on the outside of Keselowski, putting Keselowski 3 wide with the 7 on the bottom. So that's how Keselowski lost all of his momentum. We have a caution on the track now. We have a caution.
Caution's out for turn 2. And the first caution of the day, 9 laps. We're on the 9th lap as we see the 13 of Brandon Hightower coming back up to speed. And let's take a look at why the caution has come out. See him sideways down onto the apron.
Spun, no damage, no contact.
The banking of this racetrack, 24 degrees. Not enough for Brandon as he got sideways and down onto the apron.
And Rick, this is a good time to remind the fans about the tire rule in the Xfinity Series. Unlike the Sprint Cup cars that'll have 13 sets of tires that they're supposed to run 500 miles tomorrow, in today's race, to run 200 laps. These Xfinity cars have basically 6 sets of tires. They have to start on a set. So that puts 5 sets of tires in their pits. So with only 8 laps run under green, wow, these drivers would love to get fresh tires because there's so much grip. I'm not sure the crew chiefs can afford to give them to them. They have to really pay attention, and they have to make those 5 sets of tires last all 200 laps.
And pit road is now open. Once the caution comes out, that closes pit road, and once everyone is then in line, deemed by NASCAR, they will open pit road. Again, the 20 of Eric Jones out in front. This is the 7th straight race that Eric Jones has led a lap, and that's the longest streak by a driver this year. So Eric Jones, we've talked about his successes. They have happened all year long, but not yet in the chase. So we'll see if he can stay out front. He's got his hands full, though, with Suarez, Keselowski, Allgaier, and Tiff right behind him. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Shell Rotella, the engine oil that works as hard as you, and by Ford. We go further so you can. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods, giving us a great perspective of this mile-and-a-half track.
A quick update, the 33 car, he had to go to the back. Brandon Jones had to go to the back. He had to come on pit road and repair some damage from that start.
Getting ready for the restart, Eric Jones in the 20 and Daniel Suarez in the 19 come back into the restart zone. Green flag back in the air. Elliott Sadler in the 1, looking high, trying to get by the 7 of Justin Allgaier. Great restart for the 22. Brad Keselowski able to get by the 19 of Daniel Suarez. So Keselowski now challenging for the lead. Eric Jones, Brad Keselowski. The difference between the two, Erik Jones will be making his full-time Cup Series debut next year. Brad Keselowski has a Cup championship already. Erik Jones, just 20 years old, out of Byron, Michigan.
Even at 20 years old, though, Erik Jones has proven that he deserves to have the opportunities he's been given at Joe Gibbs Racing. As you mentioned earlier in the show, the winningest Xfinity regular this season in the field, yet to win in the chase. And I really think that's where this 20 is missing out, why he's probably the favorite or one of the favorites if he's fortunate enough to make those championship 4. He hasn't won when the pressure was turned up, hasn't won in the playoffs.
And right behind that 20 is the 22 of Brad Keselowski. Marty.
As we're watching Kyle Larson and Justin Allgaier battle it out further up front, Brad Keselowski trying to get that lead from Erik Jones. A lot of experience. He told his spotter, Joey Meyer, he said, listen, keep me out of that outside lane on restarts today if we can. We saw that at the beginning of the race with this 22. It has been 1 year since this 22 car owned by Roger Penske has won here in the Xfinity Series. Team is very aware of that, but they're confident this weekend. They brought a little bit of a different package, and they feel like this racetrack, this type of race at a worn-out rough track like Texas, plays to Brad Keselowski's hands, hoping they can put this car back into victory lane, Rick.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski, a streak of 8 years of winning in the Xfinity Series, and that is in jeopardy because he has not been able to win in 2016.
Well, they made a lot of changes at Team Penske trying to get their Xfinity program fixed. They remember at the beginning of the year they took the approach of trying to make the Xfinity cars more like the Cup cars so they could work together, but that did not work. They've had to go back, change, and really focus as of these cars being Xfinity type cars and give away some of that information that they were hoping to gain.
Parker, you hearing anything on the track conditions and how it's starting to change?
Well, guys, you heard Marty report about the 22 not wanting the outside lane on the restarts. And we actually saw on the initial start and the restart, the outside lane for many cars was a struggle. And I think some of that comes down to the fact that we had Sprint Cup practices before this race, and they laid an incredible amount of rubber on the racetrack. And what that does is it makes it slick and greasy. And until these cars run around the racetrack, until they get many laps where the tires wear, and they start to move around and pick up some of that old rubber off the track and lay new rubber, that outside line may continue to struggle on the restarts here.
Yeah, Parker, restarts here are very difficult. Launching at Texas Motor Speedway, it's not easy. You think of a mile and a half, it's not easy to, it's easy to just get going. You're not going to spin your rear tires, but that's not the case at this racetrack. And that outside line on the front straightaway seems to be worse than the inside line.
Crazy ride there on the Ford on board with Ryan Reed. Marty.
Rick, we saw the initial start of the race and the stack up further back in the pack. Well, who paid the penalty on that? The 16 car. Listen on the radio.
70 under. Way cool. Knocked in on the initial start there. Yeah, it stacked up really bad on the back section of the tri-oval, or the quad oval, I guess.
And let me explain all of that. What that meant was he said he's 70 under, meaning the temperatures, well, the water inside the race car, so no concern there that it might be overheating. And he said he knocked it in. That meant the front of the race car got knocked in, so that's a concern. They don't want the car to overheat. This is a team still battling for the championship, and the one thing they cannot afford today, issues on the track. They've already had one, Mike.
Another team that can't afford to have any issues is the 6 car, and that's Bubba Wallace. Came into this race pretty deep in a hole, 18 points back. Speaking with his crew chief, Seth Barber, earlier this week, he said, look, we probably need to win a race to advance beyond this round and become one of the championship 4. Right now, they do not have a race-winning car. The car has been awfully tight with no grip. Rick?
Everyone fighting for one of the spots in the championship 4 at Miami. Erik Jones, winless in the chase, trying to change that statistic and make sure that he's guaranteed a spot in the championship. NASCAR Race View gives you access to features that let you follow your favorite driver like you're at the track. You get live stats, leaderboard, driver and team communications, and more on all your devices. It's available now for an all-new low price when you visit NASCAR.com/raceview. Welcome back to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Challenge. New leader up front is the 22 of Brad Keselowski. He was able to get by the 20 of Eric Jones. Take a look at how the pass happened.
Yeah, you see right here, Eric Jones catches a slower car, moves up the racetrack, I think expecting the 13 to go to the bottom. The 13 does not, which forces the 20 of Eric Jones even higher. When that happens, the 22, that white and black car for Brad Keselowski, you see right here, he just commits to the bottom, runs basically a normal line, Jeff, and it all worked out. He didn't really need to slow down at all for the lap car.
I think Eric Jones may have just misjudged the speed difference just a little bit and went high, probably a little bit sooner than he needed to, but Keselowski was putting a little pressure on him. I think Brad's car is a little better at this point in the race as well.
I want to listen into some spotter communication for the 20 team. This was moments ago.
What do you see, Lambert? Looks like it's motoring off two pretty good, huh? Yeah, just wrapping the line, getting off good. 3 and 4 would be our weak spot right now. Drop the guys. They just need to get in a little bit better than can maintain. 10-4.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. Kelly.
And you could hear the 20 car of Eric Jones saying it fires off really good. Just moments ago, Eric saying that he's just getting way too loose, especially in turns 3 and 4. But before the break, you guys were talking about the fact that he came into this chase as one of the favorites. And I talked to his crew chief, Chris Gabehart, about that. And he said, yeah, when you come in sort of as the odds-on favorite to win the championship, some even suggested this chase would be like a victory tour for us. So that added a lot of pressure to Eric. But not only that, it also makes all the other chase drivers even hungrier. But winners want the ball, and that's certainly the case here for Eric Jones and this 20 team. He says he thinks Eric's handled it all very well, especially considering this is the first time that he's experiencing all this type of pressure at just 20 years old.
Yeah, and at 20 years old, he's racing against veterans on the track. He has Brad Keselowski in front of him. Now he has Kyle Larson behind him. So he's racing against the best in the sport, and at the same time learning from some of the best in the sport.
Well, he just learned something right there from Kyle Larson. The 20 was running the middle and the bottom of the racetrack, and Kyle Larson, Jeff, was coming 2 or 3 4/10 of a second a lap, making up a ton of speed around the top of the racetrack. The 20 of Eric Jones sees that. He moves high up on the racetrack, and I'm not sure he's found as much speed as he has slowed the 42 down by taking the preferred line. It'll be interesting to see if the 42, now going to the bottom of the racetrack, can get by.
Yeah, I think Eric Jones did find a little bit of speed. He was about 3/10, 2.5 off Keselowski, and since he moved up, he's only a 10th off. But let me show you what I really like what Eric Jones is doing. Watch his corner entry. He enters the corner against the wall. A lot of young drivers, when they run the high line, they leave the wall. They get 3 or 4 car widths, and then they move up to the wall. Eric Jones, already at his age, has learned the way to run the top is to commit to the top. Commit to the top on corner entry. If you don't do that, it just doesn't work as well. So right now he's going to go to the bottom and try the bottom. But you saw what Kyle Larson did. He entered the top against the wall. He didn't turn down the track and then move up to the wall. That's for Eric Jones. That's learning quickly.
And what a big run the 42 has now on the 20 as they enter turn 3.
And some of the reason why Eric Jones may need to move back to the bottom of the racetrack is remember the difference in agendas for these two race cars. The 20 of Eric Jones in the Xfinity Chase racing for a championship. The 42 of Kyle Larson here racing for a win. He's not involved in this championship run. And remember, we go back to Kansas, these two had a run in. And Eric Jones and Kyle Larson ran into each other and ended up hurting Eric Jones' chance. So Eric Jones is wise. He's smart. He understands running the top is a big risk. You can easily get into the wall. You know, we're only 35 laps into the race. It looked to me like he purposely went back to the bottom, told Kyle Larson, you know what, I'm going to give you the top. I'm not quite ready to be that daring early in the race.
And Steve, you see that 42 that just took the second place on the top, and you guys were talking about how good he is at the top, and I can tell you as a driver that's raced against Kyle Larson, he taught me things about running the top. Back in 2013, we were running the XFINITY series, and we went to places like Texas, and I saw how he ended up next to the wall, and that taught me a line that eventually I used a lot in my career because it worked so well. And when I asked Kyle Larson about this racetrack in particular, I said, you know, why do you like this racetrack? You seem to have a smile on your face. And he smiled and just pointed to the top and said, I love running up next to that wall.
So many different options that these drivers have. Keselowski out front, Kyle Larson running second, Eric Jones is third. And back in fourth, the 88 of Kevin Harvick. Mike?
And Rick, he's one of the big movers since the beginning of the race, up 5 spots. And it was interesting speaking with his crew chief Dave Ellens earlier this week with the threat of weather perhaps shortening practice or maybe even raining it out. You very rarely hear a crew chief say, I hope it happens. Well, Dave Ellens actually thought that might be a benefit to this team. Why? Because he knows Kevin Harvick knows this place so well. 5 victories here. He's one of the best ever on this racetrack, trying to add to that resume here today. As we mentioned, he's making his way toward the front with a very fast race car, just a little bit loose on throttle, but otherwise Harvick is pretty happy.
This is so much fun riding along with the Hunt Brothers pizza camera. It's really fun watching how they run the outside. See, Austin Dillon just got in front of him, but now that Austin Dillon's in front of him, he can't run against that wall because Austin will take all that air away from Kevin Harvick. So Kevin turned early to get air on the front of the car. The car in front of you greatly influences what you can and cannot do. Now that Austin's pulled out a little bit, Kevin now is a little more likely going all the way to the bottom. Just go all the way to the bottom, get completely away from Austin. You've just got to have that clean air.
Different lines working for different drivers. 3 drivers in the field have Texas wins. All 3 are in the top 5. Watch the chase for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship with the NBC Sports app and get closer to additional camera angles, driver stats, and track information. Watch live anywhere on any device. Find out more at NBCSports.com/live. The 11 of Blake Cook, one of the chase drivers, has already come to pit road on lap 40. Kelly, what happened?
When if you look down at these tires that they took off the 11 here at pit road, you can see why this is the right front tire. You can see that it was coming apart. In fact, Blake at one point had radioed to his team that he had been pretty hard on that tire for the first few laps, so then he was trying to lay off of it. In fact, lost several positions on track. They were going to try to ride it out for about 8 more laps, hoping to hit a fuel window, but the team didn't have confidence that the tire would hold up, so they brought him to pit road, obviously gave him 4 fresh tires, but Blake Cook, one of those Chase drivers, now a lap down, trying to keep from going 2 laps down.
So you see these organized lines on the tire right there. What actually happens is in the inside shoulder of the tire, in this area right here, when the wear gets high enough, it goes down and actually picks a little piece of the carcass underneath the tire of the winding. And what happens is once it wears to that spot, it starts to unpeel, and then it's basically like a ball of yarn. It peels from underneath the rubber, and that's what those cuts are. Those cuts are actually the tire itself unwinding. That's what Blake Cook felt. That's why he had to come to pit road. So that's not a rub. I know it looks like it could have rubbed something, but it actually wore through, and that's how it started to unpeel. And now we have another car on pit road. The 20 of Eric Jones has pitted.
Eric Jones, another one of the Chase contenders on pit road, and he's coming in front of you, Kelly.
And the last report from Eric Jones is that he had just gotten wicked loose, especially coming out of turn 4, so they're going to make a chassis adjustment. You see the wrench going around there, as well as 4 fresh Goodyear tires for Eric Jones.
Under 13-second stop for Eric Jones, a great stop. And so we had mentioned that the pit window was going to be between 54 and 56 laps, and already we're seeing green flag pit stops. Mike?
And Kevin Harvick next on pit road. You can see the wedge wrench going in on the right side, that rear window. They're going to try to tighten him up with that maneuver. 4 tire change, also Sunoco race fuel. Kevin Harvick away in a pretty good stop, 13.2. Meanwhile, Bubba Wallace in. Again, another wedge adjustment there on the right side. They're going to try to snug him up as well. 4 tires and fuel for Bubba Wallace. Marty?
Mike, a lot of these chasers coming in early here trying to short pit, meaning they're hoping to gain a little time by putting on fresher tires earlier than the leaders. One of those right now, Ryan Reed, he said his car's a little bit too free. You see him put some tape on the grill, actually, even though they had that nose damage, 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Brad Keselowski, the leader coming in, he said his car was loose, actually got tighter the longer they ran. He said the right front is gone by the time he had finished that run. A wedge adjustment, trying to free that car up. And Daniel Suarez, his car extremely tight. He told his team, he said it just really feels like the front end not working at all on this race car. You saw that big wedge adjustment trying to free up that 19 car. And again, tape on the grill, much cooler than the teams expected here at Texas today.
Elliott Sadler, another one of the Chase drivers in the 1, making his way off of pit road. Let's go back to you, Marty.
Matt Tifft coming down pit road in a nice run for this young man in the top 5, and a terrific story. He is actually having brain surgery back in July, back in the race car and running well, and a full-time driver for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2017. His car too free. You saw the wedge adjustment, 4 fresh Goodyear tires for him, trying to keep that top 5 spot back out onto the racetrack off pit road.
And you heard that right. Matt Tifft in July 1st, had brain surgery and is now behind the wheel and racing at Texas Motor Speedway as Brennan Poole's in his pits.
Rick, you see Brennan Poole pitted out of the lead. They went long on this pit sequence. They're going to do 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel. He's been struggling a bit loose on entry and loose off with the 48, running mostly in the top 10 until the sequence.
Race off pit road, they have to stay actually under 50 miles an hour. Pit road speed is 45, but NASCAR will give you a cushion of 5 miles an hour. You can't go 50. You can go 49.9 miles per hour, but you can't go 50. So that was the race off of pit road as Brad Keselowski has cycled back up front. The gap between Keselowski and Smithley, who's running second in the 0, is about 0.4 of a second. Prior to the pits, look at the 4 of Ross Chastain and the 42. A little bit of a moment here for Kyle Larson.
And Larson wanted to go to the top, and I don't think Chastain knew he was going there, so really got tight, got into turn 3. The 4 and the 1 had a close call as well.
And Ross Chastain sliding right in front of Elliott Sadler.
Well, we're going to continue to talk about that. You know, one thing that happens when you get a multi-groove racetrack is that top comes in. You not only drive around the corner differently as far as, you know, from the apron where both the 22 and the 42 run now versus the wall, but at much different speeds as well. When that 42 comes off the top, you need to make sure you leave them a lane to the outside.
NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. You could win one of the cars that we race. Go to NASCAR.com/chase promo now and enter for a chance to win a new Chevy, Ford, or Toyota. Riding along with the Toyota onboard of Eric Jones there, and Eric Jones currently in the 3rd position. But out front, it's the 22 of Brad Keselowski, Marty.
And Rick, during those pit stops, we told you that Brad said the right front was absolutely worn out. He could feel it behind the wheel. Here's what his crew chief, Greg Irwin, told him after that pit stop.
Typical Texas right front, a little bit beat up on the inside edge, just like he called it. Showed exactly what you felt.
Meaning that right front was worn out on that edge. And Jeff, I got to give you drivers credit. I know crew chiefs like Steve don't like to give you guys credit sometimes, but you have to be brave behind the wheel. And even an experienced driver like Brad Keselowski, you know the right front doesn't feel right. You know something might be going wrong or high wear might be on the right front tire, but you can't afford to lift, because if you do, you'll lose the lead.
Yeah, Marty, it's a tough call, because remember, you're running over 185 miles an hour going into these corners, and the tires always seem to blow at the worst possible time. So you're not only worried about your race, but you're also worried about, if it blows getting into turn 1, it hurts. I mean, it can hurt you coming off the corner, it blows, it can hurt you. So it's a difficult decision, and we talk about it so often. What's really bad is when you pit and they don't find anything wrong with the tires. We see the 77 car has gotten into the wall.
Yeah, Matt Waltz in the 77 has a lot of damage to the right side. Let's take a look. He was all the way up against the wall.
He was out of control getting into the corner and just had to chase it up the racetrack.
Looks as though he's going to bring it to the attention of his crew as he runs on the apron now. Surprisingly, after all of the green flag pit stops have cycled through, one Chase driver is already a lap down, and that is Brendan Gaughan, running 17th. There are 15 cars on the lead lap. Let's take a look at this week's Ford Drive to the Championship and the Chase standings as they run. Brendan Gaughan all the way back there, 27 points behind the cut line. Darrell Wallace Jr., Ryan Reed, and Justin Allgaier all below that cut line. Mike.
And Rick, this is exactly the opposite of what Brendan Gaughan wanted to see here this afternoon. He came in 17 points below the cutoff point. In fact, he was asked after Kansas about that, very surprised, and knew he had his work cut out for him. So much, in fact, they brought a brand new race car here this week, and he said, look, we're giving it everything we have, the most updated race car we can possibly bring, and we're hoping for a big finish. The car has been extremely tight. In other words, he has to slow down in order to get the car to turn through the corner, and subsequently he finds himself now down a lap. They did make a significant adjustment last time down pit road, a wedge adjustment trying to help him with that condition, trying to free him up a little bit, but so far he just does not have the speed. And also, one other issue you got to pay attention to. He might have a very slight left rear tire rub.
That has to be weighing heavily on him as well. Once again, a lap down for Brendan Gaughan.
One thing we've seen already, slower traffic is going to impact this race. Watch Keselowski catching this car coming on pit road. How close that was. I mean, he was inches away from getting to the side of him.
Yeah, lap traffic can really be a struggle here. You see the 70 of Dexter Stacy on the bottom of the racetrack, the 7 of Justin Allgaier trying to pass him on the top, and the 70 just slides up in his way, and the 7 lets him know his displeasure as he shoves him all the way down the backstretch.
And that slowed down the 7 of Justin Allgaier, so that ruined his rhythm for at least a half a lap.
He's lucky it didn't ruin his race.
Yeah.
Justin Allgaier is 4th in the chase, so he can't afford a bad wreck.
And with more on Elliott Sadler, let's go to Kelly.
Rick, he came into this race atop the Chase standings, 12 points to the good, and riding really a wave of momentum. This team has had 6 top 5 finishes in the last 7 races, and crew chief Kevin Mendering just saying that they are really riding a wave of confidence as well that really starts with Elliott. This is a team that struggled a little bit in practice. They brushed the wall a little bit. He also had a right rear tire go down that had been rubbing on the track bar mount, but they got that sorted out. Had a kind of better than expected qualifying effort. Right now, Elliott Sadler just saying he's a little bit free off the turns and tight through the center.
You see the battle for the lead getting tighter, but you know, one thing about Elliott Sadler and his team, they seem to get better as the race goes on. And even if you think about practices, there's so many times in practice they're not as good as they need to be, but they find a way to get that speed. They're going to need to make some improvements today. They're running back in 10th.
Completely different lines for the drivers racing first and second right now. Brad Keselowski way down at the bottom of the track, and the momentum for the 42, Kyle Larson, has caught the 22 now.
And where do you go? Look at all these slap cars, all these slow cars. The 90 moving up into the way of Keselowski.
Yeah, now you see Keselowski enters the top, goes down, but he's lost a little bit of momentum. The 42 carried more speed off corner exit. The 42 is going to be looking for the top of the racetrack. Brad's got to give it to him. I think this is going to cost Brad Keselowski the lead.
Yeah, definitely it's going to cost him the lead. Now he's pulled in behind the 01. That's going to take air off the front of his car. The 42 is going to get a lot of momentum in clearing.
And the 42 takes the lead away from Brad Keselowski. New leader at Texas, but it wasn't for long because the 11 of Blake Cook up in that high line, running the same line that Kyle Larson was running. Kyle Larson had to check up, and now Brad Keselowski's back out front.
There's such a huge difference in speed between these cars.
Oh, and around goes the 07. Ray Black Jr. sideways, and that will bring out the caution for the second time.
Right down pit road.
Ray Black Jr. was running in the 26th position. See a tire issue for the 07. Let's take a look how he went around way up the racetrack.
Just got loose in the middle of the corner and carried it all the way out of the corner. And it seems like he's still wide open in the gas right there.
Trying to stay out of the wall. Ray Black Jr. brings out the caution.
Back at Texas Motor Speedway under caution as leaders head down pit road for pit stops. Austin Dillon among them in your upper right-hand corner. He's been very tight. The car won't turn. He needs to get the front end to turn a little bit better. His crew chief, Justin Alexander, will make an air pressure adjustment and also a 4-tire change on the 2 car. Parker?
42 of Kyle Larson, you saw racing for the lead with your 4 Goodyear tires, Sunoco fuel. He was struggling on the short run and was good on the long run. Kelly?
Eric Jones in the 20 fired off really good, and even though the car was moving a bit to the free side, they decided no changes, just 4 tires and fuel, Marty.
Brad Keselowski said the car fired off tighter that run, so you saw them go up on the track bar half around trying to free that car up. 4 fresh tires, and he wins the race off pit road too, Rick.
2 spots gained by Daniel Suarez as we watch the race off pit road, brought to you by Geico. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by XFINITY. Change the way you experience TV with XFINITY X1. And by Credit One Bank, the official credit card of NASCAR. Tuesday is decision night in America. Join Lester Holt, Savannah Guthrie, Chuck Todd, and Tom Brokaw for live election coverage. That's all night long. Tuesday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC. 11 drivers took the wave around, including Brendan Gaughan. So Brendan Gaughan in the 62 has taken the wave around to get back on the lead lap.
Yeah, I applaud this decision. The 62 has not been having the best day. He was a lap down. While this is, I won't say a complete long shot, it is an aggressive gamble. It might cost the 62 spots, but his only chance, in my opinion, of making Miami is become aggressive. He has to do something the leaders aren't going to do.
To win these races, you have to be nearly flawless, and the two of Austin Dillon on pit road not as flawless as they needed to be.
And it wasn't a big mistake, just a small mistake, cost him one spot. Watch the left front, tire comes off. As they go to put the left front on, they don't quite get it clocked up on the hub correctly. That tiny little loss of time cost them one spot on pit road.
Those are the details you don't always see, but when those details add up, that's the difference between contending for a win and just having an okay run inside the top 10.
And Blake Cook got the free pass, so Blake Cook also back on the lead lap, running 14th now. As we get ready for the restart, Keselowski and Larson making up row one. Eric Jones helping the 22 along as they go through the quad oval and into turn number one.
Larson does a really nice job of carrying the momentum up a lane, through 1 and 2. We'll see if he can continue it on the outside of the 20 of Eric Jones right here, that bright orange 42 Ineos car.
They stay side by side for second. Larson now surging ahead. But as they enter turn number one, Eric Jones still trying the shortest way around the track.
Brad Keselowski's loving this. He looks up in the mirror and these two are racing side by side, gives him a little breathing room as the leader.
Eric Jones will tuck in behind the 42 of Kyle Larson. Daniel Suarez back there in the 19, and Austin Dillon in the 2. Now those two fight for spots. Suarez wins that battle. Justin Allgaier and the one of Elliott Sadler side by side.
These two guys run together all the time. They're teammates. They run very well together. They respect each other. They run about the same every week. Seems like the one always finds a way to get a little better finish, but their performance is so close.
Speaking of better finishes, the best finish from the last race, which was Kansas for the Xfinity Series, was second by Elliott Sadler. So of the chase eligible drivers, Elliott Sadler came into this race with the biggest point cushion, but now Elliott Sadler fighting for position with teammate Justin Allgaier back there in the 7th spot.
7 car. 48 making a big aggressive move on the 3 of Ty Dillon.
Dillon looked like he was trying to inch down the racetrack to stay in front of him, maybe almost block. But Brendan Poole had a heck of a run.
The inch down the racetrack was being polite. It looked to me like the 3 just swung a left on the backstretch trying to protect Brendan Poole. Is going to have no part of it at all.
I think that all started because Ty Dillon was right behind Justin Allgaier, and those two cars of Allgaier and Elliott Sadler were side by side. Not much air on the front of Ty's car made his car come out of the racetrack, lose grip, and the 48 was able to take advantage.
Really, the 3 just does not get off turn 2. Very good for the 2nd lap in a row. He lost a bunch of time to the 48 right there, and you see the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. right behind him in that dark purple with the white hood. He gained, 10, 12 car lengths just down the backstretch. We'll have to see again if the 3 struggles here on the exit of this corner.
Darrell Wallace, he went to the top because we talked about it. When you're running behind somebody, it just takes all the grip away from your car because all the air leaves it. So Darrell didn't go to the very top. He just went far enough on the outside of the 3 to try to get into clean air. Marty, you have more on the 3?
Well, it's impressive they're up here in the top 10, Jeff, because they actually missed pit road on the first set of green flag stops. He was trying to come to pit road, couldn't get down in enough time, so lost a little bit of time there. Let's kind of battle back, as now we're looking at a battle for 2nd place, Rick.
Here comes Eric Jones using that inside line again, trying to get by the 42. He'll pass Kyle Larson. So Eric Jones will now set his sights on the 22 of Brad Keselowski.
Remember, we talked about Kyle Larson getting into Eric Jones a few weeks ago, really messed up Eric Jones' race. I saw a lot of respect right there. Eric Jones displayed that he was a little bit quicker, used the bottom of the racetrack. The minute he did that, Kyle Larson let him get in, gave him room at the top, did not contest the position. Now Kyle Larson will try to gather himself back up, find some speed, and if he can, he'll go back and pass the 20 car. But in that incident, he without a doubt gave some respect.
This has been one of the better racetracks for Eric Jones. When I talked to his crew chief and asked him why he's so good here, he said, well, this is a track that has good grip and a lot of character to it, which allows Eric to use his skill set and try to find nuances of this track where he can gain some speed where other can't. When I asked him about tire management as well, which is critical here, he said, well, he's pretty good, but in a lot of ways he reminds me of a young Kyle Busch. Sometimes he can wear those tires down a little too much too quickly, but given a little more time and experience, I think he'll develop into a very good race driver, especially with tire management. Marty?
Nobody's been hotter in this Xfinity Series chase than Mexican-born Daniel Suarez. Back there in fourth, trying to get the third position from Kyle Larson. They have an average finish in this chase of 2.6, so they have been very impressive. He told me, you know what? This chase has really exposed people. If you're under pressure, you sometimes crack. I love the pressure. Certainly performing very well right now in that third spot going around Larson, guys.
Daniel Suarez making the move toward the front. Eric Jones running second. He got his first win here in April of 2015. Keselowski finished second in that race. Earnhardt Jr. finished third. Eric Jones fighting for a championship in the Xfinity Series. He's already got one in the Truck Series as he moves up the ramp. You're watching Xfinity Series racing from Texas. This telecast presented by Shell Rotella. Brad Keselowski continues to lead at Texas Motor Speedway. 4 drivers fighting for a shot at the championship 4 that are currently below the cut line. Drivers like Brendan Gaughan, Justin Allgaier, Darrell Wallace Jr., and Ryan Reed. Parker.
Justin Allgaier right now runs 10th with Bubba Wallace stalking him, about to pass him, but also there may be an issue inside that 7 car right now.
I'm just telling you something broke right here. I don't know what it is, but it's not the tires, not the line, nothing. Something's messed up. I saw it last lap.
And you see that little wiggle in the center of the corner. Not exactly sure what he may be describing. Maybe an engine issue at this time, but not a good turn of events for a team that came into this race on the bubble in the chase right now, tied with Eric Jones as they came in this race, points-wise. Hopefully not this problem that will be terminal come the end of the race.
And again, the 4 top drivers as the caution comes out for the 3rd time now. Debris on the racetrack. There are currently 17 cars on the lead lap, and this works out well for Brendan Gaughan. well as Jeremy Clements and J.J. Yaley, all drivers that took the wave around to get on the lead lap. They were about to be lapped again, and now they will be able to come to pit road because they hadn't been on pit road since lap 48 or 49. So a great opportunity for those drivers, and one driver will end up getting the free pass as well. That's Ryan Reed in the 39.
Big break for Brendan Gaughan. Took that big risk of doing the wave around. Way mismatched on tires, was losing a lot of speed to leaders, but we talked about needing to do something to be aggressive, and it paid off. He's now in the lead lap in the 15th position. He can come, get some fresh tires, and if the leaders choose not to pit, remember, he didn't use the set of tires under the last caution, so he's a set ahead. He'll definitely be coming to pit road, and I'm not sure all the leaders are going to be. We're really in an uncomfortable situation with 18 green flag laps. What do the leaders do? We could see some split decisions at the front of the field.
What would you do if you're the race leader?
I would pit. And risk that the cautions don't come later.
That's what Brad Keselowski is going to do, and he leads the lead lap cars onto pit road. Kelly?
And you'll see the 20 of Eric Jones coming to pit road. He said he was getting a little bit free, but concerned if they tightened him up at all that the car may not be able to turn as well as it was. But you will see it looks like they are going to indeed make a chassis adjustment, 4 tires and fuel. As for Elliott Sadler, he was happy with the last adjustments that the team made, which was an air pressure adjustment. He said it fired off that are looking for more right rear grip. Marty.
Daniel Suarez pits from 4th, Kelly, and a little adjustment, a quarter turn up on the track bar, trying to free that car up just a little bit. Brad Keselowski's car was so good, they made the call for Miller Lite. That was the pit call for those guys. That means 4 tires and no changes on that car for the 22. Very happy with it.
Couple spots lost by Eric Jones, couple gained by Larson and Suarez. They raced off pit road. NASCAR on NBC is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Shell Rotella, the engine oil that works as hard as you. And the 0 of Garrett Smithley had an uncontrolled tire, so that penalty will put him to the back of the field. We were listening into Justin Allgaier's audio just moments ago. Sounds like he's got an issue that he's not sure what it is. Listen.
I can't even hardly hold on to it. I'm literally spinning the rear tire so bad that there's smoke inside the car, and it's from tight to that, just immediately like a light switch.
That's what he's saying. Initially, the car is very tight, and then it just goes crazy loose, and he's thinking something's broken. I heard the spotter say that he could see how loose he was, the trouble he was having. Didn't stay on pit road any length of time trying to fix anything, so maybe they feel like they can make a small adjustment and help him out.
Well, if you're Jason Burdett, you have to make those decisions. Do we want to give up track position by trying to find a mechanical problem that might not exist, or is it just a mix between a balance issue and the pressure building? Because it's the chase, and this is what happens. Everything becomes more difficult.
And drivers use that term broken a lot.
They
doesn't mean it's actually a part broken. It's just they feel like it's changed so much as we're going to the restart.
In the bottom line, working better for Brad Keselowski as he's able to jump up and take the lead. Daniel Suarez was trying to stay on his back bumper on that restart. But now the 42 of Kyle Larson surging ahead on the outside. We'll see if the momentum will work for Larson once again as Suarez battles back on the inside. And Suarez is going to take second away from Kyle Larson.
That's an impressive move, though. The 42 is able to stay on the quarter pedal of the 19 and pull him back on corner exit and still contest the position into turn 1, but the 19 drives it really deep this time.
There they go again, and this time Suarez has him cleared, will run right up in front of him. And Daniel Suarez in that 19 has moved up to second.
We talk about the Sprint Cup regulars that are in the field today. We have Brad Keselowski leading, which makes a huge impact on Daniel Suarez. If he would be the leader, he'd have a guaranteed berth into the chase. But when you look at the points, Suarez running second has that big plus 18 gap because then you have Larson in the field, Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, all filling slots, all moving. Someone like Justin Allgaier back in the 7th position, a few spots back. Those are all valuable points.
As you see Eric Jones making the move by the 42. So Eric Jones moves up into the 3rd spot now as he gets by the 42 of Kyle Larson.
We got a report from pit road that Kyle Larson had gotten really tight the last run, and that appears to still be the problem. Just does not have the speed we saw earlier in the race.
Everyone on the lead lap was able to come to pit road. And so as we're closing in on the halfway point, drivers like the one of Elliott Sadler fighting to get into the top 10. Kelly.
And right now he sits in second in the chase standings, 8 points to the good, and the team has continued to make adjustments to this one car, and it sounds like Elliott Sadler is pretty happy. Here's what his crew chief Kevin Mendering said just a while ago.
What I've learned is with stickers compared to scuffs, just make a little bit bigger of a swing. With stickers, it starts off better, starts off a little tighter, so it'll swing looser a little bit quicker, and then it'll kind of settle in once we start running the top.
So as I said, Elliott really happy with the changes they made. But Steve, we heard a couple words in there: stickers, scuffs, making bigger swings. Maybe you can elaborate.
Well, so basically what these teams have to do is the way they manage their tire allotment. A sticker tire is a brand new tire, a tire that hasn't been on the racetrack. A scuff tire is a tire that's been on the car perhaps for a lap or two in practice, maybe a mock qualifying run. So what it sounded to me there was Elliott Sadler was reporting to his crew chief Ken Mendering that, hey, when we put on scuffs or when we put on stickers, a bigger swing tells me that the balance or the handling of the race car shifts a certain direction. Very important information for Kevin Mendering, so when he knows what type of tires he's putting on, he can make adjustments.
We're on lap 102 of Xfinity Series Racing from Texas. This telecast presented by Shell Rotella. Welcome back. Brad Keselowski has been out front for 81 of the 106 laps complete from Texas Motor Speedway. Daniel Suarez has moved up to the second spot. Eric Jones is third. Kyle Larson fourth. And Kevin Harvick still in the top 5. Want to listen into some spotter communication and team communication from the 62 of Brendan Gaughan.
Huge smoke in the cab. Left rear tire rub. Hopefully we'll be fine. So I'm digging. I've been watching through the binoculars. The smoke, I don't see anything. So it's just something small rubbing in view. Trying to picture this front end. How high is it? See if we can pop the hood and just take rounds out.
That was spotter coverage presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less. And Brendan might not know the rules. As he mentioned, we can pop the hood and take a few rounds out. You can't actually do that.
No, you can add rounds. You're allowed to put rounds in and raise the front of the car. You're allowed to adjust the packer gaps to lower the car if you're holding up at bump stops. But if you think the springs have too much load on them, that NASCAR normally frowns upon taking rounds out of the front of the race car.
And I love Shane Wilson, the crew chief's response. Hopefully, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep digging. Yeah, you take a look at the comparison between his last lap and the leader's last lap. 4 miles an hour slower for Brendan Gaughan, which is shocking because Brendan Gaughan has had great success at this racetrack. Maybe not in the Xfinity Series as much as the Camping World Truck Series. He came here in the early 2000s and won 4 straight truck races right here at this track. Mike.
And it's interesting you bring up the Truck Series and his history in that particular series, because Brendan was talking a little bit about going to Homestead as a championship 4 contender. He said, look, I've been at that racetrack before with 3 other guys battling for a title. He said that was 13 years ago in the Truck Series. He craves to have that moment again. He says he thinks about it all the time, and that is part of the motivation to get to Homestead as one of the championship contenders. He wants to have another shot and the season finale and bringing home the big trophy.
We've run long enough into this run, about 18 laps. That's when we see the top really start to come on. I'm not sure. You know, I've always wondered, Jim, do you think the top gets better, or do you think it's just become harder to run the bottom with pace?
Yeah, the top doesn't get better. The car gets better going to the top. It's not that the groove moves around. It's just that the car is better in that outside line. And the reason why is because right now you can be wide open in the throttle as opposed to the 19 car down with Suarez down there on the bottom. He can't go to the throttle as early. So all the gain is made from the middle of the corner off. You see the 19 of Suarez gain on the 42 and quarter entry, but from the middle of the corner off, running that high line, you can carry so much more speed. You don't have to turn the steering wheel as much. So you're not asking the car to do as many things.
Jeff, what I find interesting there as well is that over the last 2 runs, Kyle Larson has continually reported being tight, so much so that his last remark was tight. But what you know as a driver, and I know, is that when you get up there and maybe the rubber isn't quite all the way up to the wall, that can help that car turn, and that's what he's doing. He's using that outside line to help that car turn and to find the speed. It's what he does so well, but they'll want to work on that 42 car for the short run because we saw him lose so many spots when he has to run the bottom on a restart.
Yeah, but I applaud Mike Shiplett, the crew chief of this 42. He's made big adjustments because the 42 was not very good at all in the last run.
And we talked about the 20 car of Eric Jones and the 42 of Larson, how they got together earlier a few weeks ago and how the 42 was trying to respect him. But right here, Kyle Larson says, I'm coming. I have enough speed. I want the outside. And he made it 3 wide on the outside of the 20 of Eric Jones. And if you're Eric Jones right now, you're passing the 90. You're not thinking somebody's going to be on the outside. Your spotter says, outside, looking outside, looking outside. And you quickly try to make space to make sure you don't get into an accident.
Yeah, Eric Jones was about 10, 12 feet off the wall, and he thought he was outside, and then hearing someone's coming on his outside.
That's okay, because Kyle Larson only needed about 7 of those 10 feet, so he felt there was all kinds of room.
Slid right in there, and Kyle Larson up to second. Marty.
Might be a problem with Daniel Suarez. He just radioed to the team. He said that it's low voltage on his battery. They're getting out a backup battery for this 19 car. He also said there might be an alternator issue with that 19 car as well. Running well right now, up in the 3rd position, but he said something has gone wrong inside the car.
And battery issues are the gremlins that you never want to hear as a crew chief, because what is it? Is it the voltage? You know, is it the actual gauge? Is the battery going bad? Is the alternator not charging the battery? Now it comes down to basically management, clock management, time management. With 85 laps to go, shut off all the fans, shut off your air conditioner, Daniel. You're going to have to try to Basically, milk this car to the finish and use what power is available.
And see, they told him to shut off every fan real quick, Jeff. They told him to shut off everything inside the car except for the gear fan to keep that cool, to keep everything cool back there. So they've told him to shut everything off he can inside the car. They do have the backup battery here on pit road in case he does need to come to pit road, but they just told him what you just said. So you shut everything off you can, save all the voltage you can.
It's the necessary list. You can shut off the things that aren't necessary, but if you have to have a fan to keep the gear cool, you have to leave it on.
The 24-year-old out of Monterrey, Mexico, Daniel Suarez, fighting to stay in the top 5, running 3rd right now, but battery issues could move him back. Today's aerial coverage provided by our partners at Smithfield Foods as we watch Brad Keselowski continue to lead at Texas Motor Speedway. And welcome back to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Challenge. The 19 of Daniel Suarez. You just heard the issues potentially with the battery. Let's listen into his radio.
All right, you can run that one down to almost 11, and then we'll have to go to battery 2 after that. You should have enough battery to make the rest of the race.
Marty?
And Rick, they do have that backup battery on the car in case they do need it. So you heard the radio transmission there from Scott Graves. Run it down until it's about at 11 volts, which is, going to happen eventually. And then they'll switch over to the backup battery. They think they should be fine, and that should carry them to the end of the race. But Steve, you don't want to have to come in and put another battery on the car. They do have that out here in case they need to do that on pit road. But the question is, how long will it last, and how comfortable as a crew chief would you be knowing the situation and knowing you're battling for a championship as well?
Well, this comes down to preparation. It's not just about shocks and springs and pit strategy. It's about crisis management. As a crew chief, you need to understand all of these details. Going back and forth between the batteries with X amount of electrical load, how many laps can you run at a track like Texas? And then as a driver, Jeff, you have to be efficient and you have to understand what you're being asked to do.
That's right. Where do you want the voltmeter to be when I switch to the second battery? Because once you switch to that second battery, there's no going back. You're gonna pull that first battery down as far as you think you can, and then quite simply, there's a switch in the car. If you have a boat at home, where you have multiple batteries, it's a switch similar to that. You just go from battery 1 to battery 2. Very simple to do for the driver.
Now, every time I asked my driver to do that, they never said it was simple. He has a completely different view from up here, Rick. It's simple here.
It has to be a little bit perplexing, though, for the driver of the 19 when he's in this fight to try to make it into the championship 4, and he's got things like a battery issue, voltage issue that he's got to deal with, as well as try to race these guys on the track.
It is a distraction, but as Steve said, it's about preparation. If you practice these things, if you discuss these things, if you go through the scenarios before they happen, then it becomes easy to handle. It's when you throw something at somebody that they've never dealt with before on top of everything else where it's a problem. But preparation and planning really helps in these situations.
I want to take a look at the Toyota driver update, of which Daniel Suarez is one. He's running 5th, Eric Jones 4th, and Matt Tiff in 9th. All 3 of the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers in the top 10.
But Rick, I also go back to situational awareness. Daniel Suarez has a 15-point cushion over the cut line. With 73 laps to go, if a caution comes out, I'm changing the battery. Take your medicine now. Give your driver 70 laps or so to try to recover and drive back up to the field. Because if you guess wrong, and with 3 laps to go, the second battery dies, you're talking about 20 or 30 points that could be lost.
72 to go. Brad Keselowski out in front. Kyle Larson. This spotter coverage is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance, helping drivers worry less on the track and on the road. This 1.5-mile track where these spotters are up on top of the grandstands, up on top of the press box. How difficult is it for a spotter?
I think spotting, the actual spotting part, helping your driver around other cars, I think that's relatively easy. It's helping in making the car go faster, communicating. We have a car up in the top of turn 4 with a problem.
Into the wall, the 14 of Matt DiBenedetto. Now Matt was actually on pit road just a lap ago, so something has happened to that car since he came to pit road. Looks like the right front tire maybe having an issue, or even the right front wheel. He has stopped, and the caution has come out for the 4th time. And once again, the 62 of Brendan Gaughan had just gone a lap down, but because of this, a good potential that he will end up getting the free pass. Free pass goes to the car scored the highest scored car 1 lap down, at least 1 lap down, and Brendan Gaughan right now fitting that criteria. Take a look at Matt DiBenedetto here.
Car just goes on the racetrack. Obviously a major problem. You said he just came off pit road, so very odd. Wonder if they didn't get a wheel tight or something. I don't know. It's very odd. Just coming off pit road.
Or sometimes you can see a tire change actually hit the valve stem and knock it. You know, actually lose air. Now the question is, what's Daniel Suarez and this 19 going to do? We had all the reports about the battery issue. We'll have to wait for the pit stops to see if they're going to change that battery or not.
They'll attend to the 14 of DiBenedetto, and the question will be, what will the 19 do on this pit stop? Welcome back to Xfinity Series Racing from Texas. This telecast presented by Shell Rotella. Everything NASCAR is discussed on NASCAR America, daily show on NBCSN. Comes on at 5:30 Eastern. Steve, you and Jeff, a vital part of that show on a daily basis as we break down the races that take place on the weekend and look forward to the next ones.
It's a great show. It's fun to do. Get a chance to revisit everything that happens on these weekends, and the way things have been going lately, a lot happens on these weekends, so plenty to do.
Plenty to look at. We'll see as they continue to work on the 14 up the racetrack. Pit road is open, and here comes the 22 and 42. Lead lap cars can come to pit road on this lap. Kelly.
And Eric Jones will be among those there in that 20 car. He said it fired off neutral, then got a little bit free center exit, but didn't ask for any changes. As for the one of Elliott Sadler, he's been really happy with his car. Said he could use a little bit more side bite. Said if you're going to make any adjustments, make them small. It sounds like air pressure adjustment and sticker Goodyears for the one, Marty.
Monitoring the battery situation for Daniel Suarez. Once he turned everything off, Kelly, everything back up to 13 volts, so they are going to elect not to change the battery here. His car, however, very loose. To make a wedge adjustment, trying to tighten up that race car. They'll keep an eye on the battery situation. For Brad Keselowski, he said the last change you guys made went too far. The car got very loose. They said, we didn't make a change to the car. This time, very slight air pressure adjustment, trying to tighten it up for fresh Goodyear tires, Rick.
Elliott Sadler grabs a couple spots on pit road. Once again, we look at why the caution has come out. Matt DiBenedetto hard into the wall in turns 3 and 4. Chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup continues tomorrow on NBC. It's the second race in the round of 8 coverage beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern. Kevin Harvick, one of the drivers searching for a win to make it into the championship 4. He's never won in the Cup Series at Texas before.
But after watching practice today, I think he could be a favorite. He had a little bit of question about his short run speed. They got that fixed, and he put together some really nice longer runs in practice, Jeff. Him and the Joe Gibbs cars looked decent, except for the 11. The 11 looked like he needed to work on his car some.
He did look like he needed to work on his car, but Austin Dillon, a guy not in the chase any longer, he sat on the pole to see if he can get his first Cup win.
And Austin Dillon doing double duty this weekend as he's also involved in this Xfinity Series race.
So, Rick, very interesting. Pit road was open just outside the fuel window for these leaders with about 63 laps to go. These cars were on pit road. We mentioned earlier they could go 54 to 56 laps, maybe 58 was stretching it. So we saw the in-car of Kevin Harvick shutting his car off, saving fuel. That's one attempt, but the other thought is, what if you're Darrell Wallace Jr. back in 15th? You're almost the last car in the lead lap. Maybe you come to pit road right here with 1 to go. Get an extra splash of fuel, Jeff. Have a couple more laps of fuel than the leaders. We've seen these Roush Fenway Fords get good fuel mileage in the past.
Yeah, I think it's worth a shot. Brendan Gaughan back there. I think he's the last car in the lead lap. I believe he maybe could do it. Oh, that's right. He can't. He can't because he's a free pass. I'm sorry. He was a free pass, so he cannot pit.
Still like under yellow.
18 of Matt Tifft maybe coming on pit road and trying to take advantage of getting some fuel.
A couple of wave around drivers going by the pace car now.
So the 18's doing a really nice job here taking advantage. They had a penalty on the pit stop for an uncontrolled tire. So they're already going to start at the tail of the field. There's no reason to come take fuel, Marty.
Smart call by this race team, and I tell you what, all the other teams, as you guys mentioned, about 5 laps or so short. In fact, they asked Brad Keselowski a moment ago to recalculate the guys did on the pit box, and Greg Irwin said, you know what, I think we're going to be more like 2 laps short. Steve, this is where you crew chiefs really make your money, isn't it? How good does that calculator work, and how brave do you want to be on top of that pit box?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me correct myself. First, I said there's no reason for Matt Tifft to come take fuel. I misspoke. There's no reason not to come fill that 18 car up. Very smart, veteran move on top of the pit box by Chris Gale to give this young driver a chance. But for those leaders, it's much more difficult. The 22 of Brad Keselowski could save fuel, but they can't come to pit road at this point because there could be another caution. Rick, they'll come and get tires.
Yeah, this was the penalty for the 18. So take a look here. That tire has to have somebody on it. It has to be under control, and it is not under control as it was headed back to the wall.
Yeah, I'm real surprised the 6 and those guys did not pit right here. They would have only given up about 7 spots coming to get fuel.
And Blake Cook was caught for speeding. He was 13th when he was coming on to pit road as the green flag's back in the air. Brad Keselowski once again on the inside with another good restart, and now he has Kevin Harvick on his back bumper. Harvick hasn't won at this racetrack in the Cup Series, but he's won 5 times in the Xfinity Series, and now he goes to the bottom of the racetrack as he will try to contest for the lead with the 22 of Brad Keselowski. Fight for third between Kyle Larson and the 42 and the 1 of Elliott Sadler.
So about Elliott Sadler and his team, how they always seem to get better as these races continue on. He's worked himself up to 4th position now.
Way up the racetrack goes the 19 of Daniel Suarez, trying to use that high line early in this run. Austin Dillon in the 2 on the bottom of the track. Those two side by side for position. That's for the 6th spot. Suarez running in the middle of the track. Austin Dillon down at the bottom of the racetrack.
Suarez is going to lose a few spots right here off of turn 2.
Justin Allgaier in the 7, a little bit of a bobble there. Gives Daniel Suarez a little bit of momentum, so he'll hold on to that spot. With 56 laps to go, Steve, at the beginning of this race, you mentioned that the pit window for fuel would be between 54 and 56 laps. Can you conserve fuel on the racetrack under green?
You can't. You can't, especially over a long run, as we see Elliott Sadler try to get to the rear bumper of Kyle Larson. And Kyle Larson with a bobble right there off the corner exit. As a driver, it's hard to save fuel right now, Jeff. There's so much grip in the tire. The time at wide open throttle is very, very high. But as you get longer in the run, maybe 20, 25 laps into the run, you could start lifting a few seconds earlier, a few hundred feet earlier, maybe be a little bit more patient back to the throttle. There are ways you could save gas.
Steve, that is correct, but one thing to note as well is like that 42 car who likes to run up top, you don't save fuel when you're up top because you're not out of the throttle. You're actually in the throttle more as you get to the throttle earlier in the corner through the center and use that momentum being in the throttle sooner to get the run off the corner. And in these Xfinity cars, with how much downforce they have and the lesser horsepower than the Sprint Cup cars, it's incredibly tough to save fuel under green because you're going to go so much slower than the other cars that are not.
Yeah, I think this is significant right here. I know that Elliott Sadler is not leading this race right now. He has Keselowski and Harvick, 2 Cup regulars lead the race, but he has to look at the position he's in as leading because he has the guys behind him that he is racing for points. Eric Jones is in 5th, Suarez 7th, Allgaier in 8th. So being out in front of those guys, although it's not for the win, and the Xfinity regulars have to look at this as leading the race because they're leading the guys they're competing against. Talking about guys in the chase we saw earlier. Blake Cook in the 11, Matt Tiff in the 18. Cook with a problem off turn 2, or maybe just trying to make it 4 wide getting into the corner and really squeezes the 18 of Tiff down to the bottom.
Yeah, Blake Cook trying to stay alive in this chase. Has made it to the round of 8. And amazingly, Blake Cook's best career finish is 8th. So Blake Cook still fighting to stay alive in the Chase Championship. Marty.
And guys, Brad Keselowski out front right now, but he has a new guy back there in 2nd place. Who's that? Kevin Harvick. Take a listen on the radio.
He been on the long run? I haven't seen him. He pretty much just showed up. He made up a bunch of spots on pit road, but he hasn't been in the top 3 or 4. 74 to his 84.
That's the race team trying to evaluate how good Kevin Harvick might be on the long run. That's what Brad Keselowski wanted to know behind the wheel. Jeff, you know when you're leading out front, you kind of make a book on the guys around you and how they are at certain parts of the run. But when someone shows up at the end of the race with a shot to win it and they haven't been there all day, you don't really know how their car has performed all day or why they got up there.
You don't know how they performed. And also, we've talked about, do they want to try to save fuel right here? You don't know what the 88's doing. You don't know if he's good on a long run, a short run. Has he been kind of laying back and now he's going to make a charge at you? So Keselowski does not know what he's dealing with Harvick in this 88.
Under 50 laps to go. Race leader Brad Keselowski out in front of Kevin Harvick by almost a second as we go NASCAR nonstop. Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway. Out front, Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick. As we see those two running first and second, a year from now, it won't be this way because full-time Cup drivers with 5 years experience are limited to 10 races and they cannot compete in the final 8 races, the chase for the Xfinity Series. So a rule change that was announced during the off week for the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, I mean, basically, NASCAR's looking at limiting some of these drivers like Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, these Sprint Cup drivers from competing for the full season in the Xfinity Series to give a guy like Elliott Sadler, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez a better chance to get to victory lane.
Kyle Larson running in third. He would still be eligible because of the number of years that he has spent in Cup. So it doesn't necessarily eliminate.
It does limit the number, though, that the Cup drivers can get into the races. Wanted to let you know the 14 of Matt DiBenedetto was evaluated and released from the infield care center. As Kevin Harvick running second, again about 1.8 seconds behind the 22 of Brad Keselowski. Mike.
And just a master of this racetrack, as we've said a couple of times here already. 5 Xfinity Series victories for Kevin Harvick here. How much respect does that give him? Well, his crew chief Dave Ellens kind of leaned on him and asked him what adjustments they should make over the last stop. Kevin was spot on those adjustments. He said, I want to go up on the track bar 2 rounds, and I also want to put some wedge in this race car. He was telling him the car was very tight, and at this racetrack, tight is slow. They freed him up enough that he's gained a little bit of speed. He's looking for his 6th career Texas win, and he's closing in on Keselowski.
He's going to have to chase him down. One of the differences between the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series is the drivers can actually adjust the track bar in the Cup Series, whereas they can't make that adjustment in the Xfinity Series from inside the car.
It has to all be done on pit road during a pit stop. Here's your battle back for the lead of the Xfinity Series race.
That's right. Again, Elliott Sadler and Eric Jones currently in the chase, trying to get as many points as possible, and a win would guarantee them a spot in the championship 4. Kelly.
And Elliott Sadler had been running third, the 42 of Kyle Larson, eventually getting around him, running the high line. We knew that when the cars came to pit road last time around, it would be pretty close to their fuel window. Well, here's what the 1 team is telling its driver.
All right, you gotta stop me here. Fuel, I need to be saving. Do we need to be going? Do we make it, not make it? Give me some information. All right, right now we're right on our numbers, so we're gonna probably have to save a little bit towards the end of this run if we have to.
So right on their numbers, Steve, they might have to save at the end, but how much difference does it make fuel mileage-wise given where you're running on this track?
Well, it does. It makes a big difference from top to bottom. It also makes a big difference on what type of pace. You know, the one of Elliott Sadler has run up inside the top 4 and 5 of this whole run right here. The lap times are just generally faster. You're using more fuel. There's only so many ways to go faster on the racetrack, and you have to be in the throttle. But I think what makes it more complicated, Jeff, is the agenda. The 1 of Elliott Sadler has points to lose. The 20 of Eric Jones right behind him have points to lose. Well, Keselowski, Harvick, Larson, the front 3, they're here for a race win. So I think it's very important for these 2 chase-running Xfinity drivers to run their race. Don't let those 3 drivers in front of them draw you into burning too much fuel.
Don't chase the rabbit. You have to race your race. You have to understand what your situation is. But I think what's key for Elliott Sadler is they said they're right on their number. So that means he doesn't have to save fuel now. He can go hard in case a caution comes out. He doesn't have to be saving fuel now. He can save fuel in the last 10 laps of the run, the last 12 laps of the run. That's a huge benefit versus being 3 or 4 laps short, because if 3 or 4 laps short, you need to start saving early in the run.
The one thing that the chase drivers and Elliott Sadler and Eric Jones have going for them, guys like Brad Keselowski, it's been a long time since he's won, so he's going to go as hard as he has to try to win this race. It's been 14 races since Brad Keselowski has won in the Xfinity Series. Marty.
Rick, keeping up with the other Xfinity Series chasers, Ryan Reed is having a decent day back there right now in the 13th position. When I talked to his crew before the race, he said, you know, we expect to be the best we've been at 1.5 miles this year. The team has spent a ton of time in the wind tunnel trying to make their cars a little bit better. Remember, he had that early damage at the beginning of the race when it got stacked up on the start and got some nose damage on that car. They've been struggling with the handling, though, a little too tight with the race car right now. But right now, just 7 points outside that cut line is Ryan Reed going to Phoenix next week if they can hang right here.
And it looks like the caution lights have come on. The 13 smoking, so Brandon Hightower in the 13 bringing out caution number 5.
Well, was that the motor that just went? Yeah.
Well, all the fuel conversation is out the window because at this point, 35 laps to go. As we see right here, the 13 starts to smoke out the pipes. We've talked about how fast this racetrack is. When you see a car smoke like that, it needs to be basically an instantaneous caution so they can check the track for fluid. You're on board here with Eric Jones.
And look how close he was to Elliott Sadler and Eric Jones when that engine expired.
I can promise you, if you're Eric Jones in the situation he's in, point situation, race situation, you see smoke coming out of the pipes, you're hoping and praying there's no lull on the racetrack.
So now it's a 35 lap run, perhaps around 30 by the time we see pit road be opened and everyone cycles through. Now the most important thing is we just heard Kevin Harvick ask for specific adjustments to try to keep up with the racetrack. Now as a crew chief, you need to be very pointed with your questions to your driver. I want to ask Jeff specifically, listen, I only need to know about the front third of this run, 20, 25, 30 laps. We're not going to run 50. So what do you need to be better? We've seen Kyle Larson come on later in a run. That's not going to work. We have 30 laps. We're going to have to make time earlier.
Let's listen into Eric Jones's radio.
That's good. I don't have the speed, man. I just don't. Can't go that fast. There's nothing left. I get in a little harder, pushes, get back to the gas a little sooner, gets tight. I don't know. I can't get any more out of it.
Probably not the feedback a crew chief's looking for right there. It was very general, not specific like you had just mentioned. And we see everyone on the lead lap making their way onto pit road. Kelly?
And we just heard from Eric Jones saying he was just lacking some speed earlier, though he had said that his car was just way too tight as it had been throughout this race. Although his crew chief thought he knew the answer for that. They've got 4 sticker Goodyear tires pulled for the 20 car. Doesn't look like they're going to make a chassis adjustment. Meanwhile, the one of Elliott Sadler said he was just a little bit loose, but not too bad. It's also a set of sticker tires for Elliott. Marty?
They asked Daniel Suarez about the battery situation coming down pit road. He said it's flashing red at 12.5 volts. He told him to go ahead and switch to that second battery, so he did that here coming down pit road. The car super tight for Brad Keselowski. His car was pretty good. 4 fresh Goodyear tires. The call for them, Foxtrot Rick. I believe that means 4 tires and no changes.
Foxtrot, and Kyle Larson gains a spot over Kevin Harvick on the race off of pit road as we go NASCAR nonstop. You're watching Xfinity Series Racing from Texas. This telecast presented by Shell Rotella. The chase for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship heads to Phoenix. Coverage next Saturday on NBCSN. That begins at 7 p.m. Eastern. Drivers again fighting for those 4 spots in the championship 4 at Miami. The last race that will determine that championship 4 will be Phoenix next weekend. Right along with Ryan Reed, currently 12th. November is National Diabetes Month, and Ryan Reed is a type 1 diabetic. And you see the bullseye down on his leg. That is so if he needs an insulin shot, he put that on his driver's suit so that anybody in the crew knew exactly where to give him that shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would want that job of the crew to reach in the window net and you see down there on his left leg the bullseye. Listen, I've been trained to do a lot of things on a race team, but I didn't think there were any sort of needles involved.
2 by 2 once again as we get ready for the restart. It will be 30 laps to go. Out front, Brad Keselowski and Kyle Larson making up row number 1. Green flag back in the air.
The second row pushing the first row.
Elliott Sadler all over the back bumper of Kyle Larson, trying to give him a little help as they go through 1 and 2. Side by side for the lead. So close as they enter 3. Keselowski the shorter way around. Kyle Larson trying to stay in the momentum. Can he clear him as they go across the start-finish line? Kyle Larson out in front.
Kyle Larson put his left front fender on the right rear quarter panel. Keselowski trying to pull him around, got him loose. It worked. He was able to clear him.
And this 42 team has made great adjustments all day. It seems like newer tires have been the struggle, but here when it matters most, 30 to go, they get a great restart and take the lead.
Kyle Larson out in front. Parker.
Well, you see him take the lead. He was very aggressive, that side draft and pulling the 22 around as he went to the corner. That may have been an instruction from his crew chief, Mike Shipley, who let him know in those last few runs, it was the first few 5 to 10 laps that he would lose the most time to the 22 car. But after that, their lap times would stabilize. He said, let's get that 22 car early, and if you can do that, I think you can hold them off. You're seeing that right now with them in the lead.
Couple battles on the right side. Matt Tifft in the 18. Trying to get by the 6 of Darrell Wallace Jr. as Ryan Reed closing in the 16. So Larson out in front now. Keselowski, after leading 145 laps of this race, has lost the lead to Kyle Larson.
And we talked about the side draft. Watch the 42 car as they enter the corner. 42 of Kyle Larson's going to get right on the side, right there. But then as he get to the corner, continues to get close. And that second move where he got close, that made Keselowski lose, slowed his momentum down, allowed Larson to clear it.
Marty.
And guys, a nice day for Matt Tifft, who kind of fell back a little bit, now has rallied himself into the top 10. The key word for the day, learning. Take a listen on the radio.
Hey, Matt, what's the biggest hindrance keeping you from going up and around the wall?
I think a little bit of that swing was hurting my confidence to be able to stay up there. Just because when I landed, it just shoot a little bit, and I wasn't sure how to carry speed with it doing that.
Just don't feel, like you need to not go up there because you're going to hurt your performance today. Today is about you learn for next year here in Homestead. So if you feel like you need to go up there and learn, today's the day to do it.
Terrific leadership from Chris Gale, the crew chief on that 18 car. Steve, when you have a young driver like this, how much of your job is really sort of coaching and teaching during the day?
Well, even when you don't have a young driver, even veteran drivers need it at some point to have some leadership. Remember, driving the race car, their senses are overloaded trying to get this car to run as fast as possible. They only have the information out of their windshield. So a great crew chief can not only just set the tempo, but remind everyone what the goal of the day is. And for this 18 team, it seemed clear the goal was to learn, because it was just announced he's going to be full-time in an XFINITY car for Jacobs Racing next year, so learn as much as he can.
That's right. We see Kyle Busch drive this car, and he'll contend for wins, put himself in position to win a lot of races. It's unrealistic to think that Matt Tiff's going to just jump in and be as fast as a Cup champion, the all-time winner in the XFINITY Series. This is about learning. This is about making him a better race car driver as he moves through his career.
And remember, this is not just about young driver Matt Tiff. Think about Gale. Gale's moving forward to the Sprint Cup level next year to crew chief Eric Jones in the 77. So he'll have another young, very talented, which will be a Sprint Cup rookie. He'll have to coach through even longer races.
And you look at the points, the 11 of Blake Cook and the 7 of Justin Allgaier, currently tied right at the cut line.
How about this battle? Elliott Sadler and Eric Jones, they've been going at it for quite a while. See Suarez behind them. Remember, this is the battle. We keep talking about it. This is the battle for the championship. I know the lead is out front of this, but these guys are racing to try to advance into Homestead with a chance to win a championship.
Just under 22 to go. as the one of Elliott Sadler has an 18-point cushion over the cut line. The 19 of Suarez, a 16-point cushion over that cut line, and Erik Jones just 6 in front of the cut line as we go NASCAR nonstop. Great battle for the lead. Kyle Larson trying to find a way around the slower traffic, and the 22 of Brad Keselowski has been able to get right to his back bumper.
This is that awkward point of the run for the 42 where he's not as good as the 22, especially on the bottom of the racetrack, but the top hasn't really come in for the 42 yet, Jeff.
Now, the 42 is going to have to decide when to go there. We saw him try to go to the top when he caught his slower car, and it did not work. The 22 gained a lot of ground on him. The 42 looks loose to me, and that's not a surprise. We see this 42 at the end of the races loose a lot of time, battle for the lead side by side.
42 committed to the top. He went up the hill. Is it going to work? He's got to carry the momentum. He might have his timing perfect for decision to leave the bottom of the racetrack.
Less than 15 to go. Kyle Larson has gone to the top of the track. The 22 of Brad Keselowski right along the apron.
I think Brad has to think this is his big chance, right, Jeff? I mean, the top should only get better for Kyle Larson with 15 laps to go.
I agree. I think he's got to clear it quickly. Although we did see Kyle Larson start to get loose, if that continues, it'll be very hard to run the top. We've seen Kyle Larson, when he does get loose late in these races, pushing very hard. We see him make contact quite a few times with the wall. So if Brad can keep the pressure on him, he may force Larson into a mistake.
This battle can continue all the way till tomorrow when the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series will be racing here at Texas Motor Speedway. That coverage beginning at 1 Eastern on NBC.
Yeah, if you think the racing is exciting here, those Sprint Cup cars with less downforce, more horsepower, the chase on the line, they're going to be all over this racetrack, much like Kyle Larson is running right here.
And both of these guys will be in the Sprint Cup Series race tomorrow. And Jeff, here's a dilemma for Brad Keselowski. His spotter Joey Meyer said, listen, the 42 is going to take the top. If you're going to pass him, you're going to have to make it work on the bottom. So how much more difficult does that make Brad's job trying to get around him, knowing that half of your options are kind of gone? You've got to make it work on the bottom if you want to get around him.
Well, Kyle Larson continues to run where he's running. There's not going to be a top. I mean, there's just nowhere to go. There's nowhere room between the 42 and the wall. So Keselowski just got to keep pounding, keep seeing if he can make ground on the bottom. At some point, if he can, he'll have to change strategies, and he'll have to run the top and see if that'll work.
Stay in his mirror. Force Kyle Larson to be on the edge. Don't let him run 98%. Push him all the way to 100%. You see how little margin for error there is running the top. He only has a foot, and he didn't get off the corner as well that time, Jeff.
That's right, he didn't, but the 22 ran the middle of the racetrack. He didn't go to the bottom. Now he's trying it again. Not running the bottom, but the middle, and that helped him in 3 and 4. It doesn't seem to be working off of turn 2 as well, but it did help in 3 and 4.
And this is a great battle for the lead with under 11 to go. Remember, on the left side of your screen, the chase points as they run. It's tied right now at the cut line. Blake Cook, Justin Allgaier tied. The points so tight. Every position worth a point.
And Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez did get by Elliott Sadler. So Elliott Sadler moved back to 6th, Eric in 4th, and Suarez in 5th.
Blake Cook just passed Brendan Gaughan for a point to make it a tie between he and Justin Allgaier now. And again, only one race after this race at Texas to determine the championship 4. And less than 10 to go. Kyle Larson hugging the wall now, all the way up against the wall through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The 22 of Brad Keselowski trying every line, trying to find a way to get around the 42 of Kyle Larson. Good battle between the 1 and the 19 on the right side of your screen. Daniel Suarez trying to hold off Elliott Sadler. He's going to run the middle of the track as well to see if he can find a way around Suarez.
But these two drivers on the right side have done a nice job. They're currently plus 17 and plus 16 above the cut line. So as important as these points are, Elliott Sadler and Daniel Suarez have to be very smart here, Jeff. Not make contact, not lose what they have worked so hard to gain over a race and a half.
And remember, Suarez had a voltage issue midway through this race. Wasn't sure if they were going to have to change batteries. They didn't change batteries. He just turned everything off that he could turn off. And that has rectified the situation to where he is able to be able to outrun right now the 1 of Elliott Sadler. And you see the 97 on the apron.
Yeah, he was slow down the front stretch, shaking the car back and forth. I wasn't sure if he had an issue that would bring out the caution. He's way down off the racing surface, but will he be able to get around?
And as high as the 42 continues to run, look how close, maybe even gets into the wall. He does.
He did get in the wall, and that's what we talked about. We've seen this race after race. We've seen if you can keep pressure on the 42, he always seems loose at the end of the race, forcing him into a mistake. He seemed like he had driven away from Keselowski in the 22 car, but with that, did he hurt the car? Did that hurt the performance? We'll have to see.
Hey guys, just remember back to Chicago earlier this year when he was racing with Eric Jones using the top lane. He was in 2nd place trying to chase down Eric Jones. He got in the wall and lost that race. We've seen this from Kyle before, where he pushes the issue so much on that top lane when there's such a small margin for error as a driver that he sometimes just oversteps his bounds, and we saw it there a little bit, and now he's still able to hold up to 22, but he can't afford to do that again.
I don't think so either, Parker, but I think he has enough speed. I think he can back it up just a little bit. He needs to recognize he's faster than the 22 right now. He only has to win this race by a couple car lengths. Not to win it by 20. Right. You know, there's 5 laps to go. Understand the pace you need to run and run that pace. Now he's going to the bottom because of the slow car on the top.
Keselowski has been in this situation before, back in 2013 at Homestead. He was able to pass Larson for the win with 3 to go. It's the only time that Keselowski has passed Larson for a win in the Xfinity Series.
Well, you mentioned lap traffic. Look at the cars in front of the 42. There's 3, 4, possibly 5 cars that even with 4 to go, I believe the 42 is going to have to work around. That's really, in my mind, what it's going to come down to. Will these cars give Kyle Larson that preferred top lane?
Through 1 and 2, he's going to get clean sailing as he goes to the high side once again and sails by. Marty.
That's the other point for Keselowski. All these lap cars are taking away his preferred line because the lap cars are staying on the bottom of the racetrack, and that's where they make the most time on the 42. Every lap they seem to be catching him in the corner. Joey Meyer, our spotter, said we just can't catch a break with these lap cars kind of taking away the 22's line.
And they have every right to be on this racetrack. It's just almost a gentlemanly agreement that the guys will get out of the way of the 2 or 3 or 4, however many cars are racing for the win. But in this situation, you have drivers with two distinctly different lines that they're trying to run. Kyle Larson up high. The 22 of Brad Keselowski had been running down low.
The spotters have been watching these leaders. The spotters of the slower cars have been watching these leaders, knowing where the leaders want to run, giving that information to these cars. Say, hey, give them the top.
Yeah, but as soon as we say that, this forces the 42 through the middle of the racetrack to go underneath the first lap car. Then he catches two other cars side by side and has to split them down the backstretch.
We'll see if that made him check up at all and give the 22 a run, as the 22 will also have to negotiate through the slower cars. The gap a second between the top two. Kyle Larson now. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go. Sponsored by Credit One Bank. It was 0.6 of a second when they crossed the start-finish line. The gap between Kyle Larson and Brad Keselowski. 4 races in 2016 have ended with a last lap pass. And again, the 22 of Brad Keselowski has not won this year. Through the middle of the racetrack, coming out of turn 4. Kyle Larson's going to hold him off. Larson's going to win in Texas. And a great battle continuing between Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez.
Great car. Thank you for all the hard work this weekend.
Elliott Sadler all looking for as many points as they could as Brad Keselowski waves as he goes by the 42. Those two, a great battle on the track. And it was one on the restart. Kyle Larson needed to get by the 22 on the restart if he wanted a chance. He was able to do that, got out front, and Brad Keselowski could never get back by.
Engine shot. Thank you.
Kyle Larson led the last 30 laps. That was it. Keselowski 145 laps led today. Coming home second, Kevin Harvick finished third, and all 3 of those drivers will race tomorrow afternoon. Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, Elliott Sadler finishing 4th, 5th, and 6th. All chase drivers. And the points very close now in the Xfinity Series with 1 race to go before the championship 4. You see the letters rubbed off of the right rear tire of Kyle Larson. Got into the wall as he was running right up against it late in the race, and he was able to continue to hold off Brad Keselowski. Kyle Larson's making his way to victory lane. We will see him there when we return. Larson winning at Texas Motor Speedway. Tonight on NBC, the Breeders' Cup at 8, Dateline at 9, Saturday Night Live special at 10 o'clock Eastern, and then late local news, except on the West Coast, at 11 Eastern. Saturday Night Live. Host Benedict Cumberbatch at 11:30 Eastern. Let's go to Victory Lane and Parker.
Larson here, his second win of the season. His first win coming earlier this year at Pocono. First win at Texas. His 42 car is going to come out of the car here. His team is very elated. We got Owen here down on the bottom, his son. Kyle, talk to me about holding off that 22 car there at the end. I know you were talking to your crew chief, Mike Shiplett, about where he was better than you throughout the first few runs, but in that last run, you took the lead with an aggressive move, were able to hold him off.
Yeah, I love seeing Elliott Sadler behind me on restarts. He's really good at taking off and pushing. He helped me win Pocono earlier this year, and then helped me win this one. So I was just really tight for we're on the bottom on short runs. When I was in traffic there, once I got to clean air, I was like, oh man, I'm kind of loose, and got nervous, and got to the top just in time and got rolling, and actually got loose over the bumps and hit the wall into one there one time with like 5 to go or so, and thought I might have killed my run enough to let him get to my inside into 3, but I was able to have a big enough gap to hold him off. So hats off though to everybody in the Asinios team. They all worked extremely hard throughout that race. The pit crew had amazing stops all race long. Just a fun race there. Brad was definitely better than I was, I thought, especially because he could run. He didn't have to run the top. It seemed like myself, Harvick, we'd have to run the top to go really fast, and he could kind of run wherever. So 22's found some speed lately, but we also have some speed in our Chevys.
Kyle Larson is your winner at Texas Motor Speedway. Kelly?
Eric Jones finished 4th, but perhaps more importantly was the top finishing chase driver. So Eric, how big of a success was this today?
It's a good day for us, great points day, one of the first good points days we've had in this chase. So, a good solid day. It's what we needed to do. We needed to get ourselves in a good spot. I think we're probably a few points ahead now into the top 4. So a good day for us. We want to obviously go and try to win these races, but just didn't have the car to do it today. The GameStop camera was okay. We made some good adjustments on it throughout the day, but just didn't quite, get it to where we wanted to be. But wish we could have went up there, contended for the win, but a good day overall.
You had a rough round 1 and went into that elimination race really needing to come away with a top finish. How different will it be headed to Phoenix with a bit of a points cushion?
It's still going to be stressful. I don't know how far ahead we are, but you're never far enough ahead. I don't think anybody's locked in by any means, so it should be exciting. But Phoenix is a good track for me, a good track for JGR, so I think we're going there with a lot of confidence. I think there's going to be a few guys that are going to be really strong, but I think we can contend for a win as well, so it should be fun. Excited.
All right, Eric Jones, 7 points above that cutoff line. Marty?
Kelly, it was a crazy day for his teammate Daniel Suarez, who winds up finishing 5th, but battery issues during the day. So when the battery issues first crept up, were you worried we might not make it to the end of this race?
I was worried because we were, I guess, a little bit before or a little bit after halfway. So I knew that we had at least 90 more laps to go. And, I know that I have a second battery, but you never know how long you're going to be able to go. Plus, we have a lot of blowers that we can work on the tires, brakes, and everything. And after that issue, I wasn't able to use anything. Actually, even my AC, I wasn't able to use it anyway. I got a little lucky that it's cloudy and it's fresh, but in a hot day, it was going to be even more difficult. But luckily, we made it, and we made it with another top 5.
You will go into Phoenix as a championship leader, plus 17 over the cut line. How comfortable do you feel in that cutoff race that you'll make it to Homestead Miami with a chance to win the title?
I think we're in a good spot. I feel like there is no comfortable word in this chase, I guess, but we're in a good spot. I guess we just have to continue to do what we've been doing in the last month and a half. And we do that, we're going to be fine, and then put everything that we got for Homestead.
There's no doubt. That's a good way to put it, Rick. There's no word like comfortable in the chase, but Daniel Suarez does have a 17-point cushion heading into Phoenix. Mike?
Justin Allgaier dealt with a variety of issues throughout the course of the afternoon on Saturday. What affected you the most?
Honestly, just the lack of grip. I know everybody was fighting the same thing, but our Dirty Mo Radio Exalta Chevy was just never really in the racetrack at the end of a run. And, some of the restarts there, we just weren't able to go as hard at the beginning either. So the middle part of the run, we were okay, but we executed it as best we could today. We come home with a top 10 finish. We're only 1 point out of making the next round. So we have to go to Phoenix next week, have a good, solid day. But all in all, I can't thank the guys back at the shop enough. They do a great job. Everybody at Junior Motorsports. Proud to drive this car this week, and huge thanks to XFINITY Comcast for all they
do for our sport. It's been a lot of fun in this chase, and I'd like to punch our ticket next week to go to Homestead because it's been nice being in. I don't want to get out.
You mentioned 1 point back. What do you need to do in Phoenix to punch that ticket that you alluded to?
Execute and have a good solid day. Obviously, you want to finish the best you can every week. It doesn't matter what the implications are. But Phoenix was the track on the chase schedule that I had circled as one that I really was looking forward to going to. I get to race my buddy Blake Cook for that 4th place spot there, and hopefully something will happen and we can both get in. But all in all, a solid effort today, and all year long we've been building better and better race cars, and I feel like short track program has been where we've excelled. So if we could end anywhere on this note, I'm glad we're going to Phoenix.
Allgaier and Blake Cook separated by the slimmest of margins, just 1 point, heading into the cutoff race next week in Phoenix, Parker.
That is right, and Blake Cook was actually just FaceTiming with your owner, Matt Collig, there a little bit. What exactly were you guys saying?
I couldn't even hear him, but he was excited. But what a weekend, man. I am so proud of my team for rebounding and coming out of here still in the chase in a backup car situation. So, and I'm even more proud to have Leaf Filter Gutter Protection as my sponsor. By far the best gutter protection product on the market. It's going to be exciting. I'm still in the chase. Thanks XFINITY for having this chase format, because I get to go race one of my really, really good buddies in Phoenix for that final spot.
And we know how important every point is. You had that great pass around Brendan Poole around the outside at Dover earlier this year to get that 1 point. Now you're 1 point ahead of Justin Allgaier, and you made a late pass on Brendan Gaughan to get that extra point. Just talk about making that pass.
Yeah, he raced me really, really clean, so I'm really appreciative of Brendan and Ty also. We have an alliance with them, and they knew they weren't in contention to win, so they didn't let me go by, but they were racing me very, very clean, so I really appreciate that.
Blake Cook comes home with a 14th place finish. Marty?
12th, not what Ryan Reed wanted, but the team wanted to step forward at the mile-and-a-half tracks. Do you feel like you guys took a step forward today, Ryan?
Yeah, a small one. We needed a step forward. I think we just need a little bit bigger step than that. If we would have had a top 10 day, I would have said, okay, we can build off of that. So we were just a little bit shy of that. 12th is, I felt like we've been really struggling with the mile-and-a-halfs, and so I felt like we just had a mediocre day. The hard part is we want to be in that Final Four, and you can't have mediocre days. You have to have great days. So we got to go to Phoenix, and we're only 5 points back, so we're very much have the opportunity to go to Phoenix and capitalize and move on to Homestead, but we got to go have an outstanding day at Phoenix. We probably don't have to win, but top 5 for sure. So we know what we have to do. I hope everyone's watching on XFINITY X1 next week, because we're planning on putting on a show.
Going to be exciting. He's 5 points out from the cut line right now, hoping he can make up those 5 points, Mike, next week at Phoenix.
Bubba Wallace not quite as close to the cutoff line right now, in a bit of a deeper hole than you would want, I'm sure, right now. So it would seem.
Next topic. I don't even care about the points. We're here to race.
So what do you do in Phoenix if you don't care about the points, as you said?
Just go out and race, try to win it. That's the biggest thing. We show up to every weekend trying to win it, no matter what the points shake out to be. We've had a hard-fought season all year long, and hats off to my guys. To finish 11th, I think that's where we are. Yeah, I don't think we could have finished there, with what we had in practice. So we had to work on this thing, had to drive the wheels off of it. I forgot how much I ache after a race. These 2 weeks off, I was definitely spoiled. But Phoenix will be fun, no matter what the outcome is.
What effect did the 2 weeks off have?
Got to catch up with some family, got to relax.
In terms of rhythm and the racetrack and your whole routine in terms of, getting back out there.
I think it was a fresh mindset, to erase Kansas, heal up from that mentally, physically, and kind of game plan of how we can treat these next 3 races, the best way that we can. And the best way we can is not change what we're doing. It's still the same race. We're still in the XFINITY series. I'm still driving the number 6 Leidos Ford Mustang. Nothing's changed. We just have to try to do a little bit better, bring what we're bringing to the racetrack a little bit better, and make the right calls. And biggest thing is always having fun, bud.
And you can tell Bubba is still very much having fun. And Parker, the good news for him, he may not want to think about points, but a victory next week, he moves on.
The same situation for Brendan Gaughan, who came home 15th today. Not the day you wanted to use the wave around to your advantage at 1 point. You guys gave it everything you had in the 62 team, but it just wasn't enough.
No, Shane Wilson and I don't ever stop. We threw everything we could at the Chevrolet today. We pulled Packer out of the front end. We changed stagger on our sets of tires. We did everything we possibly could. And the wave around worked out for us to keep us in the hunt. But had we done what we needed to do, we'd have gained points and been about 7-8 points behind, and had a shot to do what we needed. But I'm embarrassed for my guys. They worked real hard on the Chevrolet, and for it to come and not do well at all, it's very disheartening. It kind of stinks because they put a lot of heart, a lot of energy, and the boys at the shop worked their damn tails off to get this Chevrolet here this weekend, and that really bums me up.
A very disappointing day for Brendan Gaughan, the 62 team. must-win situation come next week, Rick.
And we've heard from all of the Chase drivers. Daniel Suarez with the biggest gap over the cut line at 17 points. Elliott Sadler 16. But remember, every single position is a point. So no one on this page is safe.
No, not at all, Rick. Daniel Suarez and Elliott Sadler, why they have the biggest cushion. We have seen multiple times in cut races in the Sprint Cup Series where 16 and 17 points were nowhere near enough. So going to a tough, flat, fast, short track in Phoenix, it's going to be a stressful day for the Xfinity season.
Interesting race between Cup drivers actually in the Xfinity race today with Larson, Keselowski, and Harvick. Tomorrow, Sprint Cup Series countdown to green on NBC at 1 o'clock. At 2, it's Sprint Cup Series racing from right here at Texas. NASCAR America post-race show on NBCSN at 6, and the victory lap at 6:30 Eastern on NBCSN.
All the pressure tomorrow this chase. Carl Edwards has a lot of ground to make up after his problems last week. See if Kurt Busch, Harvick, Logano can work themselves back up into the top 4.
Yeah, on the other side of that, the only one that's guaranteed to be in is Jimmy Johnson, Hamlin, Kansas, both the Joe Gibbs teammates above the cut line, but the 6 points is the biggest margin.
It's going to be a great race tomorrow. Again, who will join Jimmy Johnson with a win as Kyle Larson won here today in the Xfinity Series. Tomorrow on NBC, Sprint Cup Series racing from Texas. And as I mentioned, who can advance to the championship 4 with Jimmy Johnson? A full day of action starts at 1 p.m. Eastern with countdown to green and continues all the way to the post-race coverage on NBCSN following the checkered flag. Coming up next on NBC, your local news except on the West Coast. Have a great night, everyone. Congratulations, Kyle Larson winning at Texas.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast.